my biggest fear in life is that people will perceive me as a failure. I still believe I can be Rudy.
It's good service.
Yeah, it's good service. I'm tired.
Are you?
Yeah.
Did you have a busy week?
I'm always most tired on Fridays.
Because you work the most during the week.
I think I go to bed earlier on Fridays than any other day of the week.
Do you track it?
No, it's just...
You should.
I just feel that way.
Okay.
I will say, before I got here, though, because I'm tired, I had some coffee on my desk, and I just took a sip.
What time?
This was like 30 minutes ago.
Oh, like just now?
Yeah.
Is it going to keep you up?
Well, they say that America runs on
Duncan?
caffeine and nicotine.
I had to finish it.
I mean, I have some nicotine.
Yeah. Oh, will that keep you going?
Yeah, I mean, I think it helps.
Yeah, do whatever you need to do. Just make yourself at home.
Okay.
So,
I will say, too.
yeah.
Are these getting canceled?
I saw that. Did you see the memes that said, so Philip Morris is, first off, let's talk about Zen here. That's the most successful CPG product in America.
I think so.
I mean, seriously, how many units? Do we know?
I don't know how many units.
I mean, tens of millions. But that's got to be the most successful.
But they're
CPG
stopping.
launch.
Is there stopping production, or is it just a
Well, I saw
retailer
that
stopping?
they're going to stop selling them online. Which
Oh.
I don't know who buys that stuff online. That's kind of messed up.
As long as the Shell station by my house has it, we're good.
Yes. Oh, that's so funny. Our perspective is limited to what we see, right?
Yeah.
How many hours you work this week?
I don't know.
Do you think that would help to know?
No.
Yeah. Because you're just in the middle of it, right? Till you get tired.
Until I get tired. And then I go to bed at 9:30 on Friday. And I normally go to bed at 11:30.
What do you do from 9:30 to 11:30 normally?
Depends. Sometimes I'm working. A lot of times I'm with friends or with Kelsey, or I'm just hanging.
You've got a lot going on. A lot. Every time I call you, you're like, I'm in the middle of something. I get the auto. You are the king of the auto text. You know, the phone call, and it's like the automated response.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
Have
you programmed them, or did you just use the Apple defaults?
I had like my own defaults for a while. At first it was like on a call - call you later, in a meeting - call you later, and then call you right back.
Because those are the only things you're in a meeting or you're on a call.
But I found myself probably like for the past like year and a half doing the custom feature, hitting custom and then saying
typing it out.
Yeah, I typed out repeatedly, can't talk but can text. What's up? And then I said, I've done that enough times. I'm just gonna make it
like an auto.
An auto.
How many phone calls do you think that you actually pick up?
Depends on who's calling. But how many? I don't know.
Okay, but
a lot.
Let's say, how many phone calls do you get that aren't like a contact? They're just a number.
Let's see. Today, let's just be objective. Today was one that was just
phone calls total. Just go through like total
one,
phone calls today.
Oh, total phone calls today. 1, 2, 3, 4.
These are inbound.
6. These are just calls.
Okay.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32.
32 today.
32 calls today.
And like
that doesn't even count Zooms. I was on Zoom, so 32 calls.
Yeah.
And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Zooms.
Did you ever think? I mean, did you ever think? That's just today, right? So
I wouldn't even call today a heavy day.
Right.
Today was it was Friday.
Today was just 30.
Friday.
Yeah, 32
I will say
calls.
Fridays are for getting stuff done, especially on Friday afternoon.
Can you get stuff done if you're scheduled all day?
I was scheduled all morning, and then in the afternoon I went on a bike ride today from 2:30 to about 3:45.
Who'd you go on a bike ride with?
With some buddies and some just random guys in Austin.
Random guys?
Yeah. There's a ride. It leaves from Mellow Johnny's at 2:30 every Friday. It's called the Truancy Ride.
Is this a real thing?
Yeah. And I think it's like guys that are like playing hooky from work.
What's the demographic of bike riders?
I'm definitely one of the younger ones. Me and it was Mason and Caleb and Evan. Demo, I'd say average age like 45.
Playing hooky from work.
Yeah, truancy ride.
So we
It's a vibe. It's fun. Good dudes.
do you think they're like? See, we went to Lions today, and we were asking people like, because we were there in the middle of the day,
Right.
you know, and we were saying, "Hey, what's your job? Does your boss know you're here?" Like, we were just trying to get data points, right? Because you saw the tweet a few weeks ago.
Yes.
It was the picture of Barton Springs,
Right.
2 p.m. on a Tuesday, just packed out. You've been there at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, and the place is always packed.
Always packed.
And I just had to know, like, do these people have jobs?
What did you find out?
Most of the people, I would say 70% of the people, what do you think, Pete? 70% of the people were like, oh yeah, I do, tech sales or whatever. My boss has no idea I'm here.
70%.
So we got a lot on camera that they were like, yeah. There was a few good responses. They were like, yeah, I'm here. I'm my own boss. It's fine. My boss knows I'm here. We're on a good relationship. But then like a lot of them were on camera. They said, yeah, my boss has no idea. Or let's say yes.
Work from home.
But then a few of them just refused to come on because they're like, yeah, he has no idea.
Wow.
Work from home culture is strong. I mean, people.
For now.
I mean, how long is it going to last though?
I work from home.
Can you imagine? Yeah, you work from home, but can you imagine having employees? I mean, that's not necessarily conducive to washing windows. Virtually,
Correct.
right? It's going to be tough for people to actually develop.
Right.
I mean, if these people are going to Barton Springs, taking their truancy ride, going to Lions in the middle of the day, and overwhelmingly the majority of people said, "Oh, like my boss doesn't know I'm here." What does that actually bode for us?
I don't know if it's good or bad.
Yeah.
And I guess you have to define what is good for the workplace and what's bad for the workplace. So like you go to Europe and it's like, oh, like Americans, you guys like work your life away. You guys work 40 hours a week. That's crazy. But then in America, it's like you work 40 hours a week. That's crazy, but because it's not a lot.
Right. That's true. And I think depending on which part of the, let's say the economy you're on, some people are doing like project-based intellectual stuff.
Right.
Some people are doing, let's say, hourly-based, just manual labor.
Right.
I mean, clearly one of those you can't do from a distance.
Correct.
And but there's absolutely a need for people to be in a certain place. Like I go to a restaurant or I go to the golf course or I need some people to show up to my house to do service and they have to show up.
Right.
And do you think that pool of people is just shrinking and shrinking and shrinking?
Of service-based jobs?
I mean, service-based jobs or
like
people
in person,
or just in person in general.
I don't know if it's shrinking or not. I really don't know.
Well, let me put it to you like this. So, like I feel like our parents' generation, or our parents' generation, they would say, I got to this place wherever they got to,
right?
And their overwhelming retort would be, "I worked really hard to get here." Are you familiar with that?
Oh yeah.
And I feel like the overwhelming comment from people who are 25 or 30 is they're just doing enough. They're just doing enough to get to wherever they are.
Right.
And are we going to get to this place where we're 55, 65 years old, just doing enough? Is life just going to happen to us? Or is everybody who's going to get to age 65 just going to be average? Or are there going to be a very small group of people who actually worked really hard who are going to get the whole cake? You know what I mean?
We'll see.
We'll see.
I don't know.
We do have this like attention-based economy now, where there's very few people who get all the attention, right? And everybody else who kind of does the work. I mean, now we're all familiar with the CEOs of the 10 biggest companies,
right?
Or I don't know, the head coach of your favorite football team, because they show up in the paper on the news all the time.
Right.
Was it bizarre to you when when's the first time you think you got noticed in public, like from a random person?
Me?
Yes.
You make it sound like I'm famous.
Yeah. When did you make it, Brandon? When did you make it?
But it's happened.
It has happened.
The internet is a wild place.
It's crazy.
You have no idea who might be listening to this.
Yeah. I don't know. Probably. I can't flash back to like a moment.
But now you're at the point. Like, do you feel like you're at the point where it's not weird? If you show up marked,
right, wearing a Pink's hat,
right,
or an El Patio hat or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not weird because I also I'm not impressed with myself.
Right.
And so I think people,
Are people easily impressed?
maybe, I don't know.
Why do you think that is?
I think people like to see people doing their own thing or doing
Mhm.
something different than the
Mhm.
norm. You know, I went to Arkansas,
Mm-hmm.
and the norm right out of Arkansas was like, go get a job at one of the big three companies in Northwest Arkansas: Walmart, JB Hunt, or Tyson Chicken.
That's right.
And what did I do right after college? I got a job at Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think whenever you do your own thing, it kind of like breaks the norm, and it's exciting to people. I think people, and for me, like that's the most fun part about what I do, and about this whole journey I've been on the past 4 years, is getting to talk with entrepreneurs or future entrepreneurs or people that have been doing the entrepreneurship thing for 40 years and learning from them and asking them questions and vice versa. I think every single person, this is a John Maxwell thing. I'd recently listened to him speak, and leadership guru guy. And he said, I believe if I were to sit down with every single person in this room, it was a room of 500 people or so.
Mm-hmm.
He said, every single one of you has like something to teach me. Like every single person has something that you've experienced or that your parents taught you or that you learned in school or you learned through your experiences. And he's like, I want to know that one thing or those 5 things or those 100 things that you know.
Right.
And that's also a Sam Walton thing, who I'm like, I love Sam Walton, but he would go into his Walmart stores and he would always go to the store manager or a department manager or a cashier. And he would tell them, he goes, I know what I know. I already know what I know, but I want to know what you know.
Right.
Tell me. And he was just like a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
And so I guess circling back to all that, like, I'm just interested in people and what they're doing and what their day-to-day is like. And like, what is it that they have? And like, I just want to learn from them. That's it.
Isn't it interesting if you're willing to take a certain perspective and actually view the rest of the world with that perspective? Like if I had the perspective that I was willing to learn from everybody else or everybody else had something to teach me,
Right.
all of a sudden I can learn from everybody else.
Learn from everybody. It doesn't matter if it's...
But if I don't believe that to be true,
Right.
then it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the people who work at the cashier at Walmart or the general manager at Walmart.
Right.
The general manager at Walmart, their entire life's work is that store.
Yeah.
For a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's a career job.
Totally.
You spend 10 years, 20 years.
And there's
30
something
years.
wrong with that.
And they know every single nook and cranny of that store.
Right.
And, you know, somebody who might be 1 or 2 or 5 levels above them, they might not know everything about that store.
Yeah.
They might know the framework of it,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not going to know it the way that that person does.
Right. And they may not know the customers like that person knows.
Right.
And that person has like a unique perspective and they see the same people maybe every week or every month. And they're there to help people.
Exactly.
And I think that's what you do. That's what I do. That's what everyone in this room does is we're just here to help. Like, it doesn't matter what you do. You can be a doctor. You can be a lawyer. You can be a plumber. You can be a lawn maintenance person. You can be a janitor. You can be whatever.
Yeah.
A social media person. We are all in the people business.
Yeah.
And that's like another piece of like what I like love to do is I now get to sit in this like unique position with Pinks where now we're franchising the business. And like 4 of the calls that I was on today were either franchisees or potential franchisees that want to bring, or maybe want to bring Pinks to their city, wherever in the country. And I get to hear their hopes, their dreams, what worked in their career, what brought them to this place of like, hey, like I want to like start my own business. I want to start my own small business. I want to start a service business. And I get to...
How many times do
hear
you
all
listen
that,
to
which is
somebody
cool.
who says that and you actually think they're serious?
About starting their business?
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah. Well, I think they're always serious.
They're
sure.
always, yeah.
But how many of them do you actually believe they actually could do it?
Well, I believe everybody can do it.
Okay. But how many of you can actually do it?
I think most people can actually do it because I think everybody has like something in them, and like everyone has like this potential to do something, whether it's And I guess at the most basic form, it's like to help people.
Mhm.
And that's all a business is you just get to help people all day. But it's just a matter of, are you organized enough and can you execute well enough to like be helpful to people and for people to see you as someone that they want to like for help from. And that's it.
Yeah.
And so my belief is like just about, I mean, I really believe anybody can do it with the proper like guidance. Some people have it within them, and some people like it needs to be pulled out of them,
Yeah.
or they need a mentor, or they need a coach, or they need whatever. But like everybody can do it. I really believe that. I think 5 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
if you would have said, hey, like in 5 years you're going to be, have 3 different businesses you're running, I would have been like, I can't do that. That sounds crazy.
5 years ago, the world was a little different.
It
too.
was a lot of different.
I mean, the last time you remember, like the last time we had this discussion, it was 4 years ago. I mean, we've had a lot of discussions since then.
Yes.
The last time we sat here and said, okay, let's record this, it was 4 years ago.
Yep.
And Pink's was like, what, 2 weeks old? Maybe
2, 3, 4,
maybe
5 weeks old.
Maybe it didn't even exist. I don't know.
I think like we just got our
You'd
hats
watch
in.
like your aunt's house.
Yes.
And it was like, all right, I think we know how to like clean windows.
Yeah, and we gave away like 20 hats.
Yes.
I think that was the last podcast
Yeah.
conversation we had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think from there? Well, there's a number of things. What do you think the number one thing that actually lit it on fire from the point of taking, 1 job to 10 jobs to 100 jobs? If you could pinpoint one thing, was it the van wraps?
No. It was a service level.
Yeah.
It was like the devotion to Carter and I for Pinks, being so committed to giving people a wow experience. I think that's what made it happen. I think it was just like I don't mean to like toot our own horn, but it was our like thoughtfulness to the customer and being like obsessed with the customer. What does the customer want? I think like that is it.
And then you keep going from, level 1 to level 2 to level 10 or whatever it is.
Right.
What level are you on now?
3.
Okay. That's good.
We're just getting going, baby.
Do you feel like as you kind of move along, does it feel like the goalposts move, or were there ever goalposts, or what is that process like?
So that's a great question. Were there ever goalposts? The goalpost when we first started Pinks was, let's do something that we love, or we don't necessarily love window washing, but we love helping people and serving people. And we love the idea of like doing something. It's your turn now, huh?
Yeah, thank you.
Like we love the idea of like doing something ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so like we kind of mastered that. We're like, okay, like I think we have like
You
this-
figure out how to do it on your own to the point that you could teach somebody else to do it.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. And then like the goalpost moved to like, all right, like let's like empower someone else to do this.
Mhm.
And we hired Hayden. And we got Hayden to do it. And then we hired Will. And we hired more guys.
How long did it take you to replace your own income? You quit a job, right?
Well, it quit me. I got laid off.
The government laid you off?
Yes.
Okay.
I got laid off. I got furloughed actually.
Correct.
How long did it take? I guess it depends on how you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was making $40,000 a year. It was actually I was paid hourly. At my
That's C3.
at C3, my job before. I was
Mhm.
making.
What were you doing?
I was an assistant talent buyer. You can
What is
also
it?
flip the words around and say I was a talent buyer's assistant.
Okay.
I always like to say assistant talent buyer because it sounds like a little more official.
But
When you reverse the role and you say I was a talent buyer's assistant, that's what I was.
Mm-hmm.
So they would make a deal with an artist, say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Artist, you're playing at this venue at this time, and you're going to get paid this much money to do that.
Yep.
They would negotiate the deal with the agent, the talent buyer, and then they would say, all right, Brandon, here's the information. It's a $50,000 guarantee to play at Stir Cove. Shout outs.
Stir Cove, Harris.
Cove, yeah.
Let's go.
And then I would type it into the little CRM, to our Salesforce CRM, and then my buyer would review it to make sure I put the data in correctly, and then I would send it.
That was it.
And then I would, other administrative tasks. How many tickets have we sold? And then reporting it to
Do you think
buyer.
at that point in time you like actually saw the future in that career, or was it kind of just like, here's the path you can get on?
I saw the future. I remember when I started working at C3, my goal was I'm going to work my way up. That was my goal. It was just be excellent here, grind.
What does work my way up look like
I
for
think
somebody who's doing that?
I don't even think I knew. I think I just
You're
wanted,
just working right because that's what everybody said you had to do.
I just wanted to be in a leadership role, whatever that meant. So maybe that means, maybe at the time it meant booking a festival on my own, or booking a set of venues on my own, or managing a team that helped book venues or festivals or whatever. But I don't even know if I had like specific goals. Oh, I want to do Lollapalooza or ACL or whatever. I just said I want to work my way up.
Like, why?
With no real.
That's funny.
plan.
I mean, but think about it today, right? Because I think that you probably like could say, okay, I have specific objectives today.
Today, oh yeah, absolutely.
But you're the same person, and it's not like it's that long ago. And at the time,
yes.
you would be like, I couldn't actually give you a specific goal that I have other than I want to be better.
Correct. And that's why I said earlier, I believe anybody can do.
Sure.
Because I don't think I believed in myself 5 years ago like I do now. And I think a lot of people don't believe in themselves that they can start the business. They can, ask the guy or girl out, that they can do whatever. Like they just don't believe that. And again, I don't think I believe that within myself. Maybe.
Like, why did that change? Like, why are you all of a sudden able to say, oh, now I can pretty clearly see myself?
It was a slow build.
Yeah.
It's like the whole principle of like the one that can be trusted with a little can be trusted with a lot. And so I think Carter and I started Pinks, and it was like, all right, like we are rolling around in a 2004 Chevy Tahoe. And like at the time, like I never sold anything in my life. And then we sold a window cleaning job.
Right.
And then we sold 10 window cleaning jobs. And then we sold 100. And then we sold 1,000. And then we bought a van. And then we bought a second van and a third and a fourth van. And then we started franchising it. And so it was like a slow stair step of confidence building. And like, oh, wait, I think I can do this. Oh, wait, like the people that I see on the internet, the CEOs or the business influencer or whoever it is, like they're not much different than me or you or anybody. They just did it and then got a stair step better every day, week, month, year, whatever. And and again, I still think I'm on the floor.
Right.
I'm on the floor.
What aspect of building a business or like starting a business scared you the most? Because I know you probably didn't feel like not confident about certain aspects. You're like, oh no, I know I can do this certain thing. What one thing where you're like, I don't know if I can start a business?
Easy. What scared me, it was, and this is like my biggest fear in life. I had a mentor a long time ago. It was during COVID, and that's when like fear was crazy in the country. It was Dr. Jeff Kerr in the Dallas area. And he said, find out what scares you the most. And he's like, it might take you like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It might take you a year to figure out what you're scared of. But like put words to it. Because I think so many people have fear, but they don't even know what they're scared of.
Right.
And so he said, Brandon, like put words, like what's your biggest fear? And so I like did some like heart work and dug deep. And I learned that my biggest fear in life is that people will perceive me as a failure. And so when we started Pinks, when you start a business, it's a very public thing. You tell your family.
It's only if you tell people.
Well, right. But if you're a normal person, you're going to tell your family and friends what you're doing. And you're not going to lie to them.
That's what you perceive as a normal person.
Correct. Yeah, that's fine. And so I guess in my mind, I'm a normal person. So when
everybody is.
When I told people what I was up to, it scared me to tell them I'm starting a window cleaning company with my buddy. And we're going to go around cleaning windows. And we got a lot of objections. So like my biggest fear in all that is that the company would fail, or people would say like, oh, what a loser.
What's Thanksgiving like next year?
Exactly. That was an insecurity that like we
Yeah.
had to overcome. And I'll never forget the day that like we kind of got over like this like like scariness. It was so when we first started Pinks, we took jobs wherever.
Yeah.
We took jobs anywhere and everywhere. And so we drove to Houston for a job for like one of like Carter's friends' parents' house, a beautiful house,
Yeah.
like 14,000 square foot
Oh,
in
yeah.
a memorial area, gorgeous house. And we like stayed in like the guest house on property. And then like, and like we were kind of the charity case. So we cleaned like his buddy's parents' house in Houston. It's like a day and a half job. Well, on day 2 of the job, we get a call. Carter gets a call.
And it was just you and Carter.
Just him and I in the 04 Chevy
And
Tahoe.
yes, and it made it all the way there.
Yeah, praise God. Excuse me. It made it there. So then on day 2 of that job, we get a call. Carter gets a call from his buddy, who's our age. And he said, hey, can you come clean my house too? You're at my parents' house now. Can you come clean my house? So we're like, we need money. So we go to his house. We clean his house.
And this is like the middle of COVID.
This is middle of COVID. And yeah, 2020. This is probably July of 2020.
Okay.
And he is like this commercial real estate guy. He's on calls. And we're like having to
Did he have
like
32 calls?
I don't know how many calls he had, but he was on calls and talking about deals and whatever. And we're like, oh, excuse me, I gotta like clean the window behind your desk. And I remember both of us feeling like extremely insecure that we're cleaning a peer's home in a nice area of Houston, the Heights, and then we end the job and he pays us cash and he tips us. And this is a peer. And so we get in the car after we're done with the job and we drive home and like we're both feeling insecure because we're like, oh my gosh, like we are like glorified janitors and all that. And so like we were just like feeling weird, whatever. And then we start talking about like our insecurity. And then that's when like both of us like decided like we're in this thing. Like we can do this.
Yeah.
Because we kind of flipped it in our brains.
You just embarrassed yourself in front of somebody else who should be just like you.
Yeah. But then we kind of flipped it on its head and we said, okay, like this thing that we're so scared of like people thinking less of us or thinking that we're lesser than because we're cleaning windows or power washing driveways or whatever it is. We flipped it and we said, wait a second, like we just offered a service
Right.
that is useful to anybody that has windows. And like how many people can like say that they created this thing that is helpful for people and that people want to pay you for. And I'd say like I think that's how we overcame that fear, is just like having to like believe in what we were actually doing. I think for a long time we said, hey, there's nothing wrong with being a janitor. There's nothing wrong with being a window cleaner, with being a plumber, with being an electrician.
But there's a much different like reality of just saying something versus like actually having there's stated preference, right?
Right.
And then there's like lived reality.
We said it and we didn't believe it. But it took us like us coming to like the end of our like insecurity rope to just be like,
but that's a really quick learning curve. Like most people don't actually do that quickly.
I don't know.
I guess that's fair.
But we just had to jump in and say, if people think we're crazy because we clean windows every day, then we're crazy. And so this comes back to your other question of like, when did I start to make more money? It was almost like immediately because we would get paid cash for these jobs. And it was just Carter and I. We, spent $150, had a squeegee, a bucket, and some soap. And we're like, we got a business.
You didn't even reconcile your QuickBooks?
Well, there was no QuickBooks at the time. It was just us. And so basically immediately, like if someone paid us $1,000 for the day, we would take 500 and I would take it. We'd take 500 and give it to Carter. And we'd be like, oh my gosh, we just made $500 in one single day. We are rich.
Yeah.
We are so rich. That's $2,500 a week. If you want to work 50 weeks a year, what is that? $110,000 a year? $120,000 a year?
125.
125. Good math guy.
Split 2 ways.
Yes. No. That's like
500 pop?
yeah. My
Oh, there you
500 a
go.
pop.
There you go.
Yeah.
2,500 a week, and then we're like, I literally thought I'm rich, and I was rich.
Yeah.
Like that was rich for me to like experience that and to jump in and to be like, oh my gosh, like if C3 calls me back or if another job opportunity presents itself.
But isn't it? But like you say that,
Oh.
right? So 125 grand at the time.
Yep.
And let's just pretend like you were making all that, but you weren't. You didn't. You
Oh,
had
yeah.
expenses, but
Well, I didn't even think about expenses.
Correct. So you had expenses, but you're making that. It's like, okay, life,
Yeah.
like life is good.
Right.
And all of a sudden it's like, as at every level, whether it's, I don't know, a revenue number or like, you know, this Instagram post needs to get 100 likes for it to be good or 1,000 likes for it to be good. It's
Right.
like you kind of keep adjusting your goalposts. I have this theory that's like, as you keep getting better at something,
Mhm.
right, and the goalposts keep moving, you're like, I'm just not going to stop because it's way easier to get 1,000 likes than it is to get 100 likes.
Right.
Like 100 likes was the hard thing,
Yes.
or making the first 100,000 was the hard
right.
number to hit.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, going from 100 to 2 to like going from 100 to like 500 is like the same as going from 0 to 100.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
That's right. Well, because I think we talked about this,
Right.
but your effort
exactly.
compounds.
Correct. And all of a sudden, the people you had from 0 to 100, they're still going to be there because
Yeah.
you gave them a good experience.
That's it. And
And
then it's
then-
just, you stack, the snowball builds, if you will.
It's pretty real.
Yeah.
When was the first time you said no to somebody?
Oh.
Do you remember it?
I recall. We cleaned this person. It was a construction clean for this house, like way out, like an hour away from here in the hill country. We clean this house. It was a $400 exterior window clean. Yeah, let's get that going. And Code to
Get
Go
that
Tequila.
ASMR pop on there. Get that on.
Yeah,
on the
Yeah,
microphone.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Nice. It was $400 exterior window clean, and we cleaned the windows. Did a fine job. This was in
Just a fine job.
It was good enough, I guess. I don't know. This was, let's see, January of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
It's less than a year in.
less than a year in. So then February, so we cleaned the house, invoice for it,
Mm-hmm.
and invoice for it, and the invoice remains unpaid. So then February happens, and what happened in February 2021 in Texas? There was a crazy
Yes.
snowstorm, snowvid as we call it.
Yes.
So snowvid happened,
Mm-hmm.
and then other storms and all that. Oh, you're done with that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So
Okay.
other storms happen, and
I got to prepare for the next thing.
yeah, nicotine, caffeine, and tequila.
Correct.
Code to Go.
Cheers.
And cheers. So the snowstorm happens. Invoice is still not paid. And we kind of forget about the invoice.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably a month after the job, I think I text or hit up email the person. I'm like, hey, your invoice is still.
Text or hit up or email.
Yeah, I didn't even remember what it was.
You were doing your own communications. So.
Yes. And I said, hey, your invoice is still not paid. Let's get that paid. And she goes, oh, well, the windows are dirty.
Oh, this is post the snowstorm.
Post snowvid, post other winter storms, post rain, post other construction happening at the
Mhm.
neighboring places. She goes, oh, the windows are dirty. And I go, oh,
So from her perspective, she got a service. She thought she got a service that
Yes.
she didn't really get, so therefore she didn't pay for it.
correct. And
That makes sense. If I was her,
I guess,
if what she said was true.
well, she said, hey, the windows are dirty today. And I said, okay. I said, there's been a snowstorm. There's been other construction in the area, all that. And I asked her the question. I was like, do you understand, why I'm skeptical? We cleaned the windows.
Is that what you said to her?
Yeah, I did. A month went by, and I was like, do you understand why I'm I was like, can you at least understand?
But you actually cleaned yourself. It wasn't somebody else.
oh, no, it was
you
Carter and I.
personally
Yeah,
did
it was just Carter and I. Yeah, and we did a great job.
So you knew.
And I guess I started the conversation with hey, I totally get where you're at. We were killing her with kindness. I totally get where you're at. I understand you want clean windows. Your windows are now dirty. I understand. Now, if you could just hear my perspective, I cleaned your windows a month and some change ago. There were some storms, there was some construction, there was some dust, whatever. And I was like, do you understand where I'm coming from? And she said, I cannot understand where you're coming from. And I said, okay, that's totally okay. You don't have to pay your invoice, but just don't call us back. And then a month later, she calls us back for another job.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was for that same house. She's like, hey, can you come clean the windows again? And I just said no.
You were done.
I was
Nice.
like, well, because to me, like, if you can't even understand where I'm coming from, like, even just like, oh, hey, like, I understand that, like, it would spend a month to send the clean. I get where you're coming from, but she couldn't even, like, understand that. And so I said, from my perspective, she was irrational.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even worth it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people start, like, when they start a business, the immediate impulse is to want to hedge on the downside, right? I don't want to look like a failure.
Right.
So I'm going to work as hard as I can to make sure that everybody gets what they think they want, whether it's right or wrong.
Right.
I'm going to work really hard so I don't look like
It
an
feels
idiot.
good.
Yeah. It's good service.
Yeah, it's good service.
So, but very rarely I think people are willing to hedge on the upside. So what if I become really good?
Right.
What are my principles?
Right.
Who do I actually want to be so that I can make most of the customers feel mostly good most of the time, because you just can't please everybody.
No.
I mean, it's a wild concept that most people, I don't think they want to bend over backwards for the person who said, you're a 1-star review.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And sometimes it's the 80-20 rule. What's that called? Like there's like
Pareto's principle.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like, what is it? 80% of your problems come from 20% of your people or your customers. And in this case, this was like a major problem that I could foresee becoming.
And you could have fixed it. Like you had the ability to.
Yeah, but it just, at that point, I guess it wasn't worth it. I guess I wasn't convinced that even if I fixed it, that it would still be acceptable in her eyes.
Yeah. When did you think, when did you start thinking about this idea of like scaling something? So at some point, like in any business, everybody starts from, I'm going to do quite literally everything from top to bottom. Maybe we'll split some things. So I might be finance and you might be marketing, but like kind of the core function we're both going to do. And there's service issues, so we're both going to deal with them.
Right.
But at some point, I mean, you decided to say, well, somebody else is going to wash the windows.
Yeah.
And they might even be better than I am.
Yes.
And at some point, we're going to be washing so many windows. There's going to be so many other issues that it's going to be quite literally a full-time job to deal with everything else.
Mm-hmm.
When did you hire the first person?
It was September or October of 2020.
6 months-ish?
Less. 4.
Mm-hmm. When did they have a full-time job?
When was Hayden full-time? Gosh. Well, I remember when he first started, he was like part-time with us, part-time at his old job. Yeah. So like, and then as the business grew, we're like, hey, this is how we thought. We said, I think we can make you full-time. Or I think if you want more hours here, we can make that happen. And he said,
and he believed you?
Yeah, he believed us.
Well, but I mean,
and now I'm glad he did. And I think he's glad he did too.
But people will believe anything you tell them. It's kind of scary when you think about your...
Sometimes.
Yeah, it is freaky.
Right.
And as you kind of kept going, it's like, oh, I guess he had a full-time job.
Yeah.
And then you got a next person.
Yeah.
And the next person.
Right.
And all of a sudden, like, do you think that when you started it, right, because you left a job.
This is good.
Yeah.
It's pretty smooth.
Straight out of George Strait's.
Something.
Well, something.
Thank you, Mr. George.
You had a job and you didn't necessarily have you said, I just want to get better, which I think is like, I would say the natural inclination of most people.
Right.
I want to do good.
Yeah.
Like, you're an average person, you want to do good.
Sure. But
you don't really know where that takes you. So you need direction. You start a business. You still kind of have the same principle.
Yeah.
Do you think that how would this have looked differently if, let's say, Carter did it on his own versus you did it on your own?
Oh man. Well, if it was on my own,
correct,
we would be called Central Texas Windows, something like that. And
it would be called Brandon Downer's Windows.
Probably. No, I'm not that pretentious.
Steiner Ranch Windows.
Yeah. And I would have the branding would have been on clip art. It just would have been like whatever's the cheapest option and whatever's the easiest option. I would have done that. And uniforms would have been Crocs, cargo shorts, and like a t-shirt. Because I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt right now and tennis shoes. Casual guy. And it's Texas. It's hot. And so I was like, I would have focus 0 on branding,
Mm-hmm.
and only focused on operations, strategy, unit economics, all that. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
If Carter would have started it himself, and this is his words,
Mm-hmm.
we were having this discussion the other day, but he was like, yeah, like if it was just me, I would have a sick branded company and we'd just be a cash only business and just kind of like be on like a text basis. No CRM, no technology.
No taxes.
Maybe, I don't know.
He would have never paid taxes.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's probably true. And
His father-in-law would have made him.
Yes, Kurt would have made him pay taxes.
Yeah.
Dare I ask who's Pink?
Nobody. Pink.
Yeah.
Pink's is whenever we were thinking about the name for the company, we went through the location-based names: Central Texas, Capital City
And
Cleaners.
you're like, they're all stupid.
Well, I mean,
They're all used up.
that's what everyone else uses, and after like 3 or 4 of them, it's forgettable.
Mm-hmm.
And so Carter was talking to his mother-in-law, who kind of comes from a branding, art, design background, and she was like, "Why did you just name it a color?
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to remember," and it gets people asking the question that Pete just asked, "Why?"
Yeah.
And then it sticks. Pink's, it's 5 letters, easy to remember, and
Mm-hmm.
she just said, "Why don't you just do that and brand it like a 50s body shop?" And once we heard that, we literally said, "All right, we're just gonna be Pink's."
I mean, there's kind of some merit in just trying something, whether or not you actually know if it works, until it doesn't.
Right. I mean, one of my business partners on the franchise thing, Stephen Montgomery, talks about getting from 0 to 1,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the hardest step.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we franchise, is because a lot of people taking that first step, getting the website, the name, the uniforms, the van wrap, the operation, getting from 0 to that 1
Mm-hmm.
is, most people never make the step.
Yeah.
But whenever you franchise, you start at 1, and then everything goes from there.
Yeah. So I know for a fact that before Resi got involved, you tried to franchise.
Yes.
You tried really hard too.
I did, and I stressed out about it. That was a very stressful moment in the business.
What was that like?
So my buddy Blake, guy I went to kindergarten with, went to high school with, like K through 12. Like we were in the same kindergarten class, Miss Brown. We were called the Monkeys. That was our classroom mascot. Known him forever. Dear friend. He saw what Carter and I were doing in Austin. He said, "I want to bring this to Dallas." And we said, "Oh
So
my
it was
God."
his idea.
It was his idea. And he came to us and said, "I want to do this." And we said, "Okay." And like, we didn't know what that meant. We didn't even know that you could expand corporately, or
You know
you could
what
use
an FDD was?
Didn't know anything. And so we said, "Okay." And he kind of figured out the structure. He's like, "Oh, we can franchise. Y'all need to produce an FDD." And I said, "What's that?" A franchise disclosure document. And so basically we tried it. We thought we had it and we didn't. And then we ultimately had to just break up with them and say, "Hey man, like we're just not ready for this."
Whose fault do you think that was?
Mine.
Why is that?
Because I didn't do the research.
Yeah.
I wasn't as in depth as it was our fault, Carter and I's fault. And you know, I think our heart was right. We wanted to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We just didn't have the know-how. In the same way that like I didn't have the know-how of branding, but Carter did.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he didn't have like the operational know-how, but we came together and then made something I think really exciting and fun.
How did you find Resi? What was the deal with that?
So Resi, who now is our partner on Pink's franchising, separate company than Pink's Austin, a friend of mine who I volunteer with, he is like venture capital, private equity guy. And we went to lunch one day. We swapped stories, told him the Pink story. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, I love your vision. I love what you're doing with Pink's. I have some," and this is like typical VC guy.
Yeah.
He's like, "I got to connect you with
Oh yeah, you got
this
to.
person."
They always got to.
They are connectors. And
Did you believe him? Like, what did you actually think?
no,
when
I
somebody said
did.
that?
Well, because I know his character and we have so many mutual friends. I knew that Jonathan was, his heart was good. And he's a low pressure guy. He's like, "Hey, like you should meet my buddy, Steven, who's doing this painting thing and he scaled his business nationwide."
Was this even
And y'all
on
should
the
just talk.
radar at the time?
No, because this was after we screwed up the Dallas deal with Blake. And so we kind of like, after we're like, I mean, that was so stressful for me. I remember like throwing up and Like it was just, I lost a couple pounds. I was just stressed. You know, some people like stress eat. I stress
Throw up.
Yes. And so it was not on the radar at all.
Mm-hmm.
Carter and I, after the Blake thing in Dallas, we committed to like, hey, let's just build Austin. Let's just grow this thing good enough for ourselves and have this like amazing local service business, kind of like ABC, like Bobby Jenkins has at ABC.
Mm-hmm.
He has an amazing local service business. He's had it forever. And we kind of just wanted to do that until Jonathan introduced Carter and I to Steven and Alan of Resi Brands. And so we said, yeah, like we'll have a sit down with him. Why not? So we sat down. We went to Doc B's Burgers in the Domain, and we sat there for I think 4 or 5 hours. The first meeting, it was one of those meetings that, like, the time just flew by.
Yeah,
and I mean they say the same thing. Like we just like phones were down. It didn't matter who called. It didn't matter anything. Like we were kind of like this right now, where we're so dialed in,
mm-hmm.
and like. The waiter and waitress kept coming back. They're like, hey, are y'all ready to go? Like they're trying to turn the table over. And we're like, get away.
Hold on.
Yeah, hold on. And so we had that meeting. And both parties, Carter and I on the pink side and them on the Resi side, like left so excited and energized. Then the next week we had another meeting. 4 more hours at that same booth at Doc B's. And then we started going into this like dating process, if you will,
mm-hmm.
with Resi. They were, before you get married, you got to date.
Like, what was their proof of concept?
It was that one painter.
And that was the only one.
That was it. The only one.
And they said, I know how to do this once, so we can do it twice.
Yep. They said, hey, we have the know-how on how to scale a business across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's interesting because we were getting a lot of inquiries from people just hitting us up on Instagram or on email or whatever, saying, hey, I love what you're doing. I want to bring it to, like, we had a guy wanting to bring it to Destin, Florida, to Northwest Arkansas,
But you didn't have like a formalized path for them to do that.
There was no vehicle to do it.
Mm-hmm.
There was no way to like get them pinks. At least that was like within our realm of competence. And I guess like we could have learned it, but scaling a business is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so
execution is something.
Execution is very challenging.
Mm-hmm.
To do what you say you're going to do, and then to actually
do it
well.
Yeah. That's what I think is so funny. Do you remember going through the old, like, the Twitter mentions?
Are y'all having fun?
Yeah.
Good.
Do you remember the Twitter mentions of Pink's Windows? So, go searching through Twitter.
Yes.
And if you search Pink's, because you're not, I mean.
This is like recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is what this reminds me of. If you go search Pink's Windows doesn't have a presence on Twitter. But for some reason, I
created an account.
Yes.
And I think there's like 7 followers.
But it's not like,
it's
an
X
active.
Now.
Yeah. X,
I think.
Whatever.
I don't know.
And there's not like a dedicated account that's like actually doing stuff.
Right.
That's like participating.
No.
But for some reason, that it generated some level of online activity on X.
It did.
And I just thought it was
hilarious.
Is
crazy for me because I love X. I love Twitter. It's great.
I know. And so you started showing up on there. He's like, oh, I'm seeing myself on this platform.
I saw a picture of myself.
Yeah.
On the internet.
And then, but the other thing too is that you do that, and there's all these like people being very critical.
Oh yeah.
So what I found to be hilarious were people who you don't know, I don't know, saying, oh, well, these guys, they're just like a glorified like clothing company.
Yeah.
They just
sell more merch than they do window cleaning.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I like the whole time my thought was I felt bad for those people.
Yeah.
Because anytime I see somebody who's doing who knows nothing about what somebody else is doing,
right,
it makes me feel like they just have never learned how to actually execute on something, because execution's difficult.
Very.
Execution is hard.
It
and
keeps
you
you up at
had
night.
created enough noise to where this person who had zero vested interest in you or this business all of a sudden found enough energy to be critical of something, probably because they were jealous.
Maybe.
Isn't that I mean,
I don't know.
But
maybe
putting yourself in public kind of creates the avenue for other people to see it who otherwise wouldn't have.
Right. It's funny because you say that, and this is why we started Pinks.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea that someone is jealous of a window cleaner is pretty cool.
Isn't that good? That's it.
And that's like, That's like the whole purpose behind the company is like flipping the script on blue collar, telling a different story. And I can go into that, but
But that's already there.
Yeah.
They already know that. That's the stuff they already heard that made them
Right.
like react like this.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Well, it's, I never, it's so funny to just even like sit here and slow down. And
Yeah.
have to like think through like, oh wow, like we've created this. That's funny.
We're good.
A little urine. Thin walls.
And we're back.
And that's what's fun about like what, has happened with Pinks
Mm-hmm.
is I think it did what we said initially. We said we want to flip the script
Mm-hmm.
on blue collar. And the fact that people are talking about this little window cleaning company
Mhm.
that started with two boys that were laid off from their job and driving around in a Tahoe, and now people are talking about it. Like that's like mind blowing to me,
Right.
and I can't talk about it for too long, or else I'll like be like, wow. It's something we're so proud of because like it's fun to make money and it's fun to get all these great jobs and get
Mhm.
all these like maintenance plans, all the business things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really fun when people find purpose in what they do.
Mhm.
Like that gives me juice.
Yeah.
When it doesn't matter what you do, whether window cleaning or a financial planner or whatever, but if you find purpose in it,
Mm-hmm.
that's what gives me juice.
Yeah, like when we were out there the other day, when we found the boys on their jobs on South Congress, and we interviewed them. I mean, they were pretty fired up to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, from some of the guys have been there for a couple of years or like 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and they had their little like name tags, or
Mhm.
their name was like stitched into their shirt.
Right.
They looked good. They knew what was going on. It's pretty exciting.
It's very exciting. And like that's the whole goal is can we fire up a generation
Mm-hmm.
of people that like value what keeps our cities going and keeps our cities maintained.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I remember even before Pinks, maybe it was like right when we started Pinks, I had this idea of like a blue collar, like appreciate, I was coming from the music business.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've told anybody this, but I had this idea in my brain of how cool would it be if we had this music festival
Mm-hmm.
or like some sort of just like celebration. And if you were a construction worker, a plumber, a window cleaner, a lawn maintenance person,
You got in free,
you got in free.
like the military.
Yeah. And then like, some like country artist played
Mhm.
because that's pretty like blue collar, right?
Yeah.
And then like the sponsors of it would be like Home Depot or Lowe's or like some just like big like blue collar like service like
Mhm.
business that supports all these businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this dream of like, hey, like let's just celebrate the people that honestly like keep our cities and our communities rocking and rolling
Yeah.
and beautiful and clean and constructed and all that.
Yeah.
So if anyone is listening to this and you're an executive of a music company or a Home Depot and you want to sponsor this, give me a shout.
All right. Thanks, Houston. Charles.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel funny being like in your like window washer persona? Do you ever feel funny being like, oh, I'm a window washer, but you can also stand on the same ground as somebody who you would have otherwise viewed as like a white collar executive 5 years ago?
Yeah. It's
Feeling like you're on the same ground?
yeah. Because every business is kind of crazy when you think about it.
Yeah.
Like when you think about the music business, like at the very beginning,
How many things have to go right for things
so
to
many things. But
occur?
at the very beginning, like maybe you're booking like a bar that holds like 85 people.
Mm-hmm.
And people think you're absolutely insane because you're like, okay, you're booking this venue that has a 85 cap and you're making like no money.
Negative dollars. But and it's what's wild to me is like you get the same product on an 85 person venue, and then all of a sudden you can book like a 200 person venue, same exact product.
Yes.
And then you get the same exact product and it's a 2,000 person theater.
Right.
And then it's a 20,000 person arena.
Right.
And then it's a 100,000 person stadium. But at its core, it's really the same group of people, the same exact product behind
Right.
the scenes.
Totally.
I mean, you were washing windows 5 years ago, and now it's You're washing windows the same way you always have.
Absolutely. It's just at a
There's
different
more
scale.
eyeballs. Does that make it inherently better or just different?
Just different. Like the problems you solve at a, when you're cleaning one house versus an arena, there's different problems, but you're still cleaning the same way.
Mm-hmm.
But like, there's more things to think about the bigger you get.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of goes back to that stair step principle of like, you kind of get competent. And again, it's like the faithful with a little can be faithful with a lot. And so like you get good at booking that 85 person venue, and then you go, I think I have this down. And then you go get that next venue, 200 person venue, or you go get that, I was cleaning a 1,000 square foot house. Now I'm going to do a 3,000 square foot house.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was doing a storefront with 5 windows. Now I'm doing a hotel building. And you just kind of keep growing. And again, like that's why today, like I think I'm on the floor still, because I think I'm still growing. I'm still learning. And I want to look back at this podcast and listen to it in 5 years and be like, oh my gosh, I was such an idiot,
Right.
And I think if I were to listen to the podcast we did 4 years ago, I'd be like, what was I saying?
Well, I think that you're like probably inherently saying things that are true, but
Right.
you didn't actually know them yet.
Right. Yeah.
Like that's how I feel like when I listen to myself from years ago.
Mhm.
I think that what we were talking about was true.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I would have been able to say, oh, yeah, but I actually lived what it was like to hire somebody or fire somebody or scale a business to the next level or hire a manager or like franchise something. I just didn't have that lived
Right.
reality.
Yeah. And then you live
And you keep going.
and you just keep rolling.
So do you think that like what would stop you from actually functioning kind of in the same I don't know, daily, weekly, monthly pattern? Like if you were to make $100 million or $1 billion,
What would stop me?
would you go, I've kind of like cashed out and this is enough?
Yeah, I don't know. I know this. I never want to retire, if you will. And I say that today, I'm 30. Maybe when I'm 70, I'll think differently.
Mhm.
But what I mean by retire is I never want to stop learning, and I never want to stop doing meaningful things. And so maybe the meaningful thing that I do when I'm 70 is I go work at the Central Texas Food Bank 3 days a week. That's meaningful.
Right.
But I just never want to stop doing meaningful things. And meaningful might just be like, hey, I'm going to hang out with my grandkids every day, or hang out with my spouse, or hang out with my kids, or volunteer at the food pantry, or go on a mission trip, or whatever it is. I just never want to stop doing that. And I never want to stop learning either, or solving problems. And the problems could be as simple as, hey, the grass in my yard is long today, I need to cut it. Or the problem could be, hey, there's dirty windows across the whole world and they need to be cleaned.
Yeah. They'll probably exist.
Maybe. Probably.
Maybe.
I hope so.
As long as they're there, you'll keep going, I guess.
Right.
What time did you wake up this morning?
This morning, 6.
What time did you wake up this morning?
6:55.
What'd you do first thing?
First thing, there was actually like so I just had to put out a few like work fires real quick, and then I got in the sauna.
Let's go.
So
Oh, yeah.
You have a sauna.
So that's pretty good, right?
Yeah,
Is it life-changing yet?
I'm 6 days in.
Your skin is immaculate.
It's awesome. I will say, when I was in the sauna today, I've been working through a framework for our franchise business coaches and thinking through like, okay, whenever we hire a business coach, how am I going to coach them to coach our franchisees?
Right.
And I was in a sauna and I just came up with the framework.
Okay. What is it?
It might suck.
You might change it before you tell them, but tell us.
Correct. We're going to coach on 4 things
'Kay.
at Pink's. We're going to, this is fresh. This is,
Yeah.
15
It might suck.
hours
It's
ago.
fine.
We're going to coach to our KPIs.
Mm-hmm.
So our KPIs, we have 4 of them. We like 4s at Pink's. We need 3 estimates per day because you don't get a job unless you send an estimate first.
Mm-hmm.
So we coach our franchisees, go get 3 estimates a day.
Yep.
The next one is close rate. I sent out 100 estimates in a month, 50 closed, as in that they became business. That's a 50% close rate. The next one is recurring revenue. we need a lot of recurring revenue at Pinks. And then the last one is how connected you are within your community.
Mm-hmm.
We measure that via Google reviews and a 100-person referral list. So that's one. So
Okay.
zooming back out, we're coaching on 4 things. So we coach to our KPIs.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the drivers of the business.
Mm-hmm.
2, we coach to leadership. So we want to be extremely effective leaders, and we want to empower our franchisees and give them the tools to be leaders. John Maxwell, he's written more leadership books than anyone else on the planet and in the history of the world. John Maxwell, he's like the official like Pink's mentor. Monthly call with John, but then we take his principles, we download them within our team, and then we download those to our franchisees, and we want them to be good leaders. So how to hire, how to fire, how to treat a customer, how to influence people, all that. So we're going to coach to leadership. The next one, we're going to coach to revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So you know how they say in business, revenue is like the cure-all.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can have like a million things wrong, but if revenue is right, then you're kind of fine.
Yeah. Always.
So we are going to make sure our franchisees are driving revenue, and our coaches at Pinks, and I'm a coach too, by the way. We're teaching and like walking with our franchisees to drive revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what does that practically look like? Let's say I send out 10 estimates in a week, and I email them or I text them over to somebody. Hey, I'm going to clean your exterior windows, and it's going to cost $100, and I'm going to clean your interior windows, and it's going to cost $100. Let's say I email that to you, and you don't respond. Well, me as a coach, I'm going to get on the phone, and I'm going to call the prospect at this point
Mm-hmm.
and try to close a deal. And then we're going to coach our franchisees. Good, get another one.
Thank you.
I'll keep you going. So we're going to coach to revenue. And then the last piece is we're going to coach to compliance. So
Compliance always exists.
it does. And so compliance, like whenever you,
How do you have compliance in Windows?
well, it's compliance within the franchise. So whenever you buy a Pinks, there's a franchise agreement,
Mm-hmm.
and there's all these things you agree to. I'm going to wear the uniform this way. I'm going to make sure the van is a Dodge ProMaster with this exact wrap. And we like set all that up for them. There's revenue, like compliance things. Like, hey, if you're not doing a certain amount of revenue, you're out of compliance. So we're going to coach to compliance. And that's kind of like the floor. So those are the 4 ways. Now I just presented it to the partners.
Mm-hmm.
They might say, that's stupid. We're not doing that. But that's what came to me in the sauna this morning.
It works.
I guess.
Dang.
I was just laying there and I said, oh, wow. I think I got something.
There's like the magical thoughts that happen to you when you're in the sauna.
Well, it's not just a sauna. For me, it's when I'm clear-headed.
Right.
And I think if you're in any leadership role, honestly, in any role at all,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to think about your life, I think being clear-headed is the best way to do it. So for some
Right.
people, it's like, I'm going to go on a walk, or I'm going to go watch the sunrise every day, or I'm going to just like have that quiet place. And these things, they make me
They're
not
like,
clear-headed.
It's poison in your brain.
Yeah, it's like, because this thing, like if I'm on Twitter, I'm not thinking, I'm just consuming someone else's thoughts. And maybe sometimes that generates a thought,
Mhm.
but I kind of have to like put this thing away to like
Physically
really,
put it away.
really like dive deep. Well, when I'm in the sauna and I'm with this thing, like this is like
It
within
lives with you.
5 feet of me for like all day, every day.
I know.
It's kind of annoying. But whenever I can step away, and when I'm in the sauna, it's 185 degrees in there. I can't bring the phone in because then you'll get the notice.
Yeah.
It's
it just starts-
overheating.
yeah, it's dying.
And so it's like forced time to be quiet and to be creative, and it's helpful, I think.
Well, I think people don't think about like what are the primary factors that actually create like positive outcomes, like
Right.
being clear-headed, right?
Yeah.
But the other thing that I think is way more important than that even is, okay, if being clear-headed's really valuable to me and I get the best performance,
Mhm.
how do I make it as easy as possible to be clear-headed?
Yes. And
Right?
that's why I spent $3,500 on a sauna,
Right.
which that's a lot of money, I think. $3,500 sauna to put in my house.
Mhm.
But if that $3,500 gets me 20 minutes a day of like really clear thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
is it actually expensive?
Right.
I don't know. But I can go a lot of ways with that. But
But if you think about it, most people kind of work in sports. They do only their really valuable things in certain small windows.
right.
Like I can only be really productive for so many minutes in a day, or otherwise I end up finding myself doing like busy work. Right? You have emails or you have
Which you kind of have
meetings,
to do. at
which
some
you
point.
have
Yeah.
to do. But if you're super scheduled, which like let's say the average professional is super scheduled,
Mm-hmm.
you got 8 hours in a day because that's what the average person's supposed to be doing, and you're scheduled for 4 or 5 or 6 of them. You've only got 2 or 3 or 4 hours a day where you can actually do like deep like thought.
Right.
And how do you actually create a really productive environment that's conducive to getting
Absolutely.
good stuff done?
And that's the sauna for me. It's like creating that environment to do it. I'll never forget Pete Inman, who I don't know if you know him or not. He's just like an Austin guy. Yeah. He's like the mayor of Austin. So
Mhm.
connected. But I remember sitting with him probably 10 years ago. Just like he's kind of a mentor to me. And he was like, Brandon, I just highly encourage you to wake up early when you like start your career. Wake up.
Isn't that like one of those things when you're young and like old people say it and you're like, I don't really believe you. Like, I don't know why you're even telling me this.
Well, I remember he told me that and I left the meeting and I was like, that'll never be me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to I love sleeping in. I love sleep. And I thought, I'm never going to wake
You've
up.
had the same alarm on your clock, or like your phone.
Oh, yeah.
For like 12 years.
Yeah,
What
it's
does it
really
say?
annoying.
You should play it. Play it. Can you find it?
Oh, yeah.
Could you make it go?
Yeah, of course.
That's awful.
It's,
It doesn't work either.
well,
Did you go the soothing route or the irritating route?
Oh no, this is really good. This is like
it depends.
A plus.
Like, I'm going to set a timer for
2 seconds.
yeah, wait, I got to, all right.
This
2
is
seconds. Here we
bad.
go.
We
Ready?
got out of the sauna the other day and this played.
Yes. Listen to it. So, remember the video in high school? It was like the motivational video.
Yes.
And it was that guy talking. And he's
I don't-
like,
where did you watch this in high school?
okay, it was probably like a football thing. Like it was like,
I didn't play football.
right, well, that's a bummer for you. Football's
Okay.
awesome. So, but basically,
I
like,
did
the
other
whole thought
things.
is like this guy was getting trained by like a Navy. Like, I don't know if that guy's a ex-military or what, but
Sounds like a David Goggins character.
yeah. And basically, he like took his like trainee.
Mm-hmm.
They were on the beach, and he took him into the ocean. And he's like, "Hey, take another step forward. Take another step forward." And he got chest deep.
Mm-hmm.
Take another step forward. And then the mentor, this is graphic,
Yeah.
but he grabs the mentee
Mhm.
and he just like holds him under the water like he's drowning him.
Yeah.
And the guy's like fighting for air, fighting for air, fighting for air. And then finally, like, he like fights him off and gets a breath because he was like drowning him basically.
Uh-huh.
And the mentor tells the mentee that he was just trying to drown. He said, the second you want to be successful as bad as you want to breathe, that's when you'll be successful. and so like hearing that as a high schooler, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to want success as bad as I want to breathe. And then like, I think he goes on to say, well, some days, you know, if you want to be successful, you don't even have to sleep. And so as a undersized wide receiver in high school that wanted to be on varsity so bad and I wanted to be the starter so bad, that's what I
Yes.
woke up to every day
But
for 2
but
days.
you said when you were in high school, I remember this distinctly actually.
Oh, boy.
You were a high school wide receiver
Yes.
and you go to Arkansas, 18 years old, and you legitimately said, I think I can walk on the football team.
Okay, I still believe that. You know, I'm 5 foot 8.5, 165 pounds. But I was like,
What's your 40?
today, I don't know.
Well, okay.
I think I'd be sub 5.
Okay. I mean,
think.
that's pretty fast
I don't know.
for like a
I
normal person
think I was like 4'7" in high school.
playing SEC football.
So
Little undersized.
yeah. Well, but the only reason I think I could be on the team, I would just be like the culture guy. I'd be like the walk on that's like with the towel and just like jumping up and down and hyping
That's
everyone
called a
up.
ball boy.
No, they got to give me a uniform and then it's real.
Okay.
I kind of imagine myself as Rudy. You know the movie Rudy? You know, Notre Dame, played defensive end.
Oh, I know Rudy.
I mean, come on. Like that's, I think I still believe I can be Rudy. And I think today, like I feel like we're going to get a little sporty here, but growing up, I was always undersized. I was a late bloomer, not a tall guy. But I think like that, never being the biggest or the fastest or strongest guy, it like created this like, I have to work extra hard to achieve because I don't have like the physical advantages that the 6'3", 220, kid has.
Yeah.
And so, anything I could grab onto, any motivation, sitting in the front of the team meeting, taking notes, doing whatever, trying to be the leadership guy, like watching motivational videos to like motivate myself and hype me up. I did it all, man. I just wanted to be on varsity.
Did it translate?
I was on JV as a junior, which I was so sad about that. But
Yeah.
I think I actually needed it for my development looking back. And then senior year, I had a great senior year.
Yeah.
I started for most of the year until our quarterback got hurt. But yeah,
Friggin' hiccups.
it was a fun year.
Fun year.
I still dream about high school football.
I'm sure you do.
I have dreams of being late to practice.
Oh yeah.
Or I
I've
have
had
dreams
those.
of like my coach saying, "Hey, you're not starting."
Like
And
I dream about
it's
being
like the fear dream,
like I'll wake up and I'll be like I was late to my tea time if I'm waking up for a golf tournament.
right.
Goodness gracious. And I'm like I missed it.
I think if you shoot the tequila, the hiccups go away.
Oh, is that how it works?
Yeah.
I'll try it.
I'm just kidding.
You're kidding?
Oh, I don't think that's true. I just made that up.
I would do anything you said right now. Anything you tell me. I just follow.
Give me money.
Fate. What's been wild, like to me, as you kind of like accelerate, what people would say is, as you accelerate what people would say is a perceived level of success. You kind of go, up this ladder, and you start to realize, like when I was in high school, I would be like, this is bad.
No, this is good.
We
This
got
is
to get
good.
it off. You got to be like,
All right, there is a cure to hiccups, by the way. Do you know what it is?
no.
Holding your breath.
No, you have to. So you need two people to do it. Maybe that we can actually do this. You need to have a full glass of water. You need to have a partner. Someone has to hold your nose and your ears, and you drink the whole glass of water.
No, I was in the middle of it. We'll get it done. So, when I was in high school, I'd be like, "Oh, my coaches know everything,"
Oh yeah.
and there was always this phenomenon that whoever's one level ahead of me knows everything.
Right.
And then you get one level up, you're like, "This person doesn't know everything."
Yeah.
And then you like get to the owner of the company, and it's like they don't know everything.
Right.
And then you get to these like influencer business people, and they don't know everything.
Right. It's true.
Isn't it weird?
It's so true.
And they kind of struggle with the same stuff that you always struggled with all along.
Yep.
It was like a lot of belief stuff, or it was, I tried this thing and it failed.
Right.
Like they all did that. Isn't that just a weird phenomenon as you
Absolutely.
keep being introduced to people at different like rungs of
Absolutely.
success?
I mean, today, like I think some of like our employees at Pink's franchising,
Mm-hmm.
they come to me and they're like, "Hey, like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here?" And a lot of times I'm like, "I don't know. I need to think about that more.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?"
I don't know.
I know what I know. What do you know?
Yeah. But at the same time, though, people who are like at that level asking people who they think are above them, they generally know a lot more than they think too.
Absolutely. And I think that's like any leader's job. And it's coming back to like pulling the good out of the people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like our job to create an environment that's safe enough and where it's safe enough where people can make mistakes and people can take risks, but then like have grace for them if they do fail. And so I think, we're in the business of like empowering.
Right.
And
It's like the Walmart store manager knows more about running a Walmart store than the CEO.
yeah,
I think that's absolutely true.
I think so too. But yeah, no doubt.
It's crazy. The more you know.
The more you know.
I'm gonna die with these hiccups.
You gonna take a pause?
Oh no, we don't pause.
Okay.
We just keep going.
Those hiccups are cute.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. So you did the job that everybody else did. You're in Arkansas.
Yep.
Why'd you come back?
To work for you.
That's right. That is damn right. Tell them.
I came back to work for, at the time it was Martinez and Associates.
Yep.
A branch of Ameriprise.
That's right. That's how you answered the phone.
Martinez and Associates at Branch America Price. This is Brandon.
Yep. You meant yeah. So that's a wildly different job than where you were, and even where you are. And
Very different.
I know you hated it, but
Correct.
what did you
I
like?
talked about that on a different podcast recently. I hope
Really?
It's okay. Yeah.
What did you say? I want to know.
Well, I just said I wasn't firing on all cylinders. I felt like I couldn't do anything right. It wasn't me. That's
Yeah,
what I
you had
said.
a bad boss,
Yeah, I had a bad boss.
but there.
They didn't pull the good out of me.
That's right.
They weren't in the business.
They
of
need to
empowering,
take
okay?
your
Also, at the
leadership class,
time, you and I were living together.
dude. We spent all day to.
We were
We
working
spent all
together,
day, every day
and it
together.
negatively affected our friendship.
Oh yeah.
Which that was sad.
We would wake up in the morning, drive to work together.
We took separate cars after like a week,
Yeah, spend all day in the same office.
but not really talk that much.
Yeah, I mean we were going, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you were.
I don't know. I'm still there, kind
I
of.
was scrolling Twitter.
Yeah.
I was at Barton Springs on a Tuesday. No, that was before
No.
work from home was a thing.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
2018.
Yeah,
But I do think that at some level we had some things that we did correctly,
yeah.
right?
I mean, I think I learned how to run a small business.
Yeah, and I think, if anything, I think that was a good formative period for both of us, probably, because we kind of really got to see firsthand, like, somebody who's running a small business with 3, 4, 5 people. It's really what it was.
Yeah,
The person at the top absolutely doesn't know everything. Certainly not with 5 people.
your dad. No,
You just can't be exposed to everything at that
but
point.
what's funny is at the time, going back to your point, was I thought that David was the absolute truth.
Yeah.
And
Well,
he-
he in a sense he was
Right.
because that was a small office,
Sure.
right? There was only so many things that could happen.
Well, I guess in my brain at that time, if I can like think back to it, as like I thought there was one answer to every question.
Yeah.
And I think what I've realized as I've grown is it's not that way. There's a lot more nuance in people and in business and than just
And it makes me realize why
Yeah.
these people who are in positions that we listen to, like why they give answers that are black and white. Because when you're talking to 1,000 people, 10,000 people, 100,000 people, you kind of have to give answers that don't have any nuance.
Right.
Otherwise, the second you start speaking with nuance to large groups of people get lost.
right. Time to reload.
Yeah.
These things don't last long, but I've had it in for an hour.
Yeah. All right. Run it back.
Mhm.
But I also think there's a lot of value. I mean, at that time, you're working for a wealth management firm. You kind of got an x-ray vision into people's personal finances. It's kind of wild when you think about
Oh yeah.
being exposed to that when you're so young. I mean, 23 years old, and now you're looking at people who have, you know, 1s and 2s and 5s and $10 million net worths.
Right.
How do they get there? In many different ways,
Many ways.
right?
And everything is nuanced. I mean, I probably got to see 200 families,
Yeah.
financials in depth, and have at least sit in on conversations with all of them. And I think what it did was it just gave me perspective.
Mhm.
I don't think I knew what a lot of money was, and I still don't think I know what a lot of money is. But I think that just gave me perspective into
Mhm.
people.
Yeah, what is a lot of money? That's a reasonable question, because it's like the goalposts always keep moving.
Right.
It always keeps going. But the other thing with the goalposts moving too is as you keep going up, it's like the game kind of gets easier in a sense. Like
Maybe.
like we said before, it's easier.
Don't
to
they
go,
say mo money, mo problems?
you deal with different problems though,
Right.
and it's the consequences of your decisions are meaningfully higher.
Mm-hmm. Are you about to get into the value proposition of a financial advisor?
No, this is not a commercial.
I thought you were gonna value prop me.
I can't value prop you.
So I've got a question for you.
Come
Do
on.
you feel like working with Soup in any way informed your decision making as a business owner when it came to Pinks?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because the way that Martinez and Associates at the time was run was like the operations were very simple.
If nothing else, we focus on revenue.
Focused on revenue. and like the operations were simple. Like a lot of the business was run on an Excel sheet. Like of like new business coming in and new client meetings and all that was on an Excel sheet.
And you got so mad the first time. You're like, oh, this Excel sheet, like I can blow this thing up. We got to like automate all this. And like, this is
Yeah.
going to be so much better.
Coming from Walmart, I was like Mr. Excel.
Mhm.
I'm not, but I thought I was. But they used it so simply. And so I think like one of my biggest learnings is like, hey, especially when you're first starting a business, and you gave me a lot of this advice too, is don't get too complex too early. You know, like just use the Excel sheet. You could use Google Sheets. Take cash to start off. Like get a business checking account and don't get a credit card yet. That's too complex. Just use a debit card. You taught me that.
Use a debit card till you prove you can stay in business.
That's right. And I think those like the things that I learned from them was like, hey, like you don't have to like get all this technology and make it all sexy and cool and techie and all that and like really efficient. Like it's okay if there's inefficiencies. Because for me, like I didn't even know what the technology was to run a service company at the time, but I knew how to use an Excel sheet, and so I just did that and I played what I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I like thought, okay, I think I have this down, or like, hey, like this is like way too much administrative work or double administrative work that I need to do. That's when I started to think about technology and a CRM and all that. So I think that's like the biggest thing I learned was keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid.
There's a lot of value in doing the stuff like at the ground level, because then you can teach the next person to do it really well.
Yeah, that's right.
And if you never learn how to do it effectively, how can you teach it?
Yeah.
So now you've moved into this realm where you're working with people who have millions and millions of followers on various social media platforms. You're kind of on the cusp of potentially getting into a universe you've never really experienced before. Do you think you're ready for that?
Yes. No. I don't know.
Does it feel like you're just dealing with the same challenges you always have?
Yeah.
The game hasn't really changed.
It's a stair step.
Right.
It's just the next step. That's it.
What have you learned from some of your new business partners?
I learned that I'm thinking. Hold on.
What have you been exposed to? Like what? These are just like new ideas, right?
Right.
It's a different game.
It is and it isn't. Mm-hmm. I think what I've learned, it's kind of what we were saying earlier, that everybody, like these influencers and these people with a big following or a big company, they're just like you or me or any of us in this room. They're just doing it at a bigger scale.
Right.
So like when they're trying to decide what to do, like they're thinking about it just like we think about it. It doesn't just come to them. They have to think. They have to think and then act, execute, and ensure that the execution was correct. And so it's no different than what I did when I cleaned the first window cleaning house.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody, especially like these business leaders, they're blazing a trail just like you are or I am or someone is for their career. It's just at a bigger level.
Yeah.
So
more eyeballs.
What's that? More eyeballs. Now the consequences of their actions might be larger, negative or positive, but they're still ragtag. Like I think I'm ragtag and scrappy. That's right. And so are they. You know? And I think that's what makes, I think that's one characteristic of a business leader is like having that like scrappy attitude. Like, hey, like we're going to figure this out like today, right now. I also think that one thing I've noticed is people move very quickly. Mm-hmm. And they say, okay.
People who are successful move really quickly.
Oh yeah. These like partners of mine, they act quickly and they say, okay, if we mess it up, that's fine. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
Or, we mess up, we're just going to fix it later. But we're going to decide right now, next decision.
Why do you think Pink's caught on as a big idea?
Why?
Yeah.
I think it's just different. Like a branded service company, like a company that like, I think you said at dinner or something, like we're like in the attention business. Mm-hmm. All of us, like Facebook, Twitter, these influencers, these whatever, they're fighting for our attention. I think we're in the same business. These hiccups aren't going away.
No.
I'm
pretty
burping
bad.
too. I think the
Yeah.
Mats El Rancho is like
The mat, it's coming back
the Mats
for round
the
2.
fajitas.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm tired,
Okay.
so I'm gonna log off.
Caffeine and nicotine.
What?
When do you normally go to sleep?
I've got it tracked. I actually go to bed before 10 on average.
Yeah, you said your average bedtime this week or for the last.
Yeah, for this week's like 9:56.
That's great.
That's good.
Yeah.
What time do you normally wake up?
He's data driven.
He's got sleep tracking devices
Let's
built
see.
into his bed.
Would you put a chip in
That's
your
my 6-month average.
Okay, so in bed at 10:13 it says wake up at 6:54 a.m.
That's 6 months.
So you know how like there's like this whole, I know you want to go to bed but whatever. Like the Whoop strap or like the Oura ring or like
That's the 8 sleep.
the bed thing.
Mhm.
It's like
The
super
bed thing.
like your smart bed or whatever.
Yeah.
Like all that's becoming a thing. Like when's it just gonna be like a chip inside of like your hand or
Oh,
your
the
brain?
the Neuralink.
Maybe Neuralink does that, but
Mhm.
would you do that?
I don't think I would be the first person, but I would be like the 200th person to do it. I
After
think.
some healthy clinical trials.
For sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
I don't know if I would or not. I gotta think more about it.
It's more information. I think you can make better decisions with more information.
Right, but it's just like the risk of like, all right, I have this chip inside of me.
Right. So I wouldn't be the
Or
first.
like, what if it gets abused by the
Chinese government?
company? Yeah, whatever.
Let me taken over by the government. I mean, yeah, that's a real risk, but I don't think that's a dissimilar risk from everything else that we do. We're on the internet, for example. Everything you have, all your money's on the internet.
True.
All of your information's on the internet.
Isn't that a crazy thought? Like, remember, like we used to be like a cash world where it's like, hey, I'm gonna work and then you're gonna give me a bill.
Do you remember that video? It just started circulating again, where people were ordering like Burger King 30 years ago with a credit card. They would check out at the line, and I remember this because it just showed up. They were interviewing people who were ordering Burger King $2.50, and they were paying with a credit card, and then they were getting other people's reactions, and it was like, that's so wild.
Right.
Why would you use a credit card?
Yeah.
Like for that,
It's just gonna
we have
keep-
cash.
it's gonna keep
And,
progressing.
yeah, everything's gonna keep changing. The whole world's always changing.
But I just think it's so funny. It's like, all right, we have these businesses, but like, and we like make money, but instead of like getting something physical, it's just like a number on your screen.
It is.
It's kinda
It's
funny.
like a game.
It's a game.
It is a game.
It's
I
just
just
an
keep
app.
seeing like the account just reloads and reloads and reloads, and it goes more and more, and then you're like, oh, I can
Or
make
it goes
different
down.
decisions. Or it goes down. It totally. Oh yeah,
If you're
negative.
planning a wedding, it
goes
might go
worse.
down.
Yes, 100%.
You know, I don't know.
No, it does go down. I saw
Yeah.
that. It's for real.
Yeah.
That's for real.
All right.
All right, I'm good.
Thanks.
Thanks.